Greetings, comrades. I am Skeleton Etiquette, or Sket if syllables frustrate you. Today, we're taking a look at the Shadow Priest Mage Tower. This is the revamped version available during Legion Timewalking. And yes, this video is rather late, so much so that the original window to play the Mage Tower has actually closed. However, sometimes showing up late has its benefits. In this case, the Mage Tower has been extended by another 2 weeks, and has already seen a number of revisions to its mechanics. So unfortunately, all the previously published videos are now out of date, and the majority of their strategies will not work. That's precisely where we come in with a fashionably late strategy. Those other videos will just have to sit there with their thousands of views while my master plan reveals the best way to get 38 views. Huh. Disclaimer, I spent 7 hours on this fight, over 60 pulls, and even more frustrated sighs. Do not despair, this content is not easy. Don't let anyone suggest to you otherwise. We'll get you there though. This video will be broken up into chapters, as usual, to get you as much or as little information as you need. This strategy will be viable unless they make a third hotfix to the challenge, which, now that I think about it, could happen. RIP 38 viewer master strategy. Straight to business, I like your style, comrade. The Mage Tower is a 5-phase fight with 2 quarreling brothers. One is dominated and charges after you, gaining speed and damage over time. Periodically, he'll make a shadowy mess on the ground. This will slow you if you step in it. If he reaches you, he will punt you into a different time zone, generally killing you. From here on out, we'll call him Rage Bro. Quick note for kiting. I see a lot of people facing Rage Bro and backpedaling, partially because Mindflay points you in the direction of your target, but you always want to be facing 90 degrees away from your kited target, because sidesteps are much faster than backsteps. When you reduce his health to 35%, he becomes untargetable, and you must deal with the other brother who casts Limp Noodle Shadow Bolts. From here on out, we'll call him Mage Bro. This is Phase 2. You get roughly 30 seconds of damage and mild kiting of the slowest adds that you've ever met, and from here on out, we'll call them Slow Bros. Before he returns to his ritual and Rage Bro learns how to walk again, but not run, as this is going to reset his stacks of speed and damage. No shame in that, Rage Bro. I was a hooked on phonics kid myself, and running sucks. Phase 3 is the same as Phase 1, except now you have Slow Bros chasing after you, and about every 30 seconds or so, you'll see one of these hands pop into existence. Their only purpose in life is to cast a long one-shot called Grasp from Beyond. If this goes off without a defensive, you will die, and from here on out, we'll call them hands. Simplicity is more important than consistency, comrade. I thought you knew that. Dealing with the hands while chipping away at Rage Bro until he's back at 35% will find you in Phase 4, where Mage Bro returns with his Limp Noodle Shadow Bolts, Slow Bros, hands, and now these void circles you have to soak for a few seconds to despawn them, or else this unkillable ad sprouts up and ends your run in about 5 seconds. I know this sounds like there's a lot going on, but wait, there's more. Phase 5. In the final phase of this shit show, you'll have all the mechanics, all the bros, and their hands, and their circles. And this is where strategy is going to determine your next course of action. Previous strats would suggest that you can kill Rage Bro, and from there on, simply outrange Mage Bro, because his Shadow Bolts are now rock hard, but they're very short range. This used to allow quick windows of damage before needing to retreat, patch up, and then return. This is no longer viable, as Mage Bro has unfortunately learned from Rage Bro how to walk, or do this dolphin swim thing. He does his own thing. The other strat that has been nullified is the bad zone, where all the circles spawn in the left front quadrant, so as long as Rage Bro doesn't drop his shadow goo in that area, we're all set. This has also been fixed, as Mage Bro has also found out how to turn his head when casting, allowing circles to spawn on the opposite side as well, which makes the entire strategy of, hey, just avoid this half of the room, a bit harder. So what's left? Well, now we go for the Zerg strat. Since mechanically this fight is incredibly difficult, And the longer the fight goes on, the more chaotic it gets. All the math suggests that if the boss dies sooner, it is in fact better. So we have the kill video with commentary, then we'll talk about the gear, gems, enchantments, consumables, and talents that help me perform the Zerg strat. Quick piece of advice before Rage Bro kicks this off. I wouldn't recommend using one-time consumables until you're in a kill window. And by that, I mean being around 20% of Mage Bro's HP. Because honestly, the consumables make each run cost around 2,000 gold. And your frustration will get the best of you just from how much each mistake is starting to cost you, as well as time. So here comes Rage Bro. I kited him this direction just to get him out of the way and place pools in an area that I don't intend to return to. I'll use my initial Devouring Plague and Void Torn on him just to get things going a little bit quicker, but we'll still have max insanity again anyway. Make sure as you're doing damage you have all your dots on. I know this sounds simple, but this is a DPS check throughout. Don't use Mind Blast without the enemy being dotted up unless you're out of insanity. A quick kiting loop brings us to phase 2. And for the Zerg strat, you want to be using all your CDs and on-use trinkets here. And if we're within the kill range, our potions and our drums as well. And yes, I did click all the CDs, and I still got the Zerg kill. You can do this. This is the cleanest window of damage we will see during this encounter, and we need to make the most out of it. Prioritize Void Bolts and keeping your dots on, but not over-applying them, as this will also cost you damage. I was getting Mage Bro down under 60% HP in this initial burst, which is what we're looking for. You want to keep some insanity for phase 3, but the amount doesn't really matter as long as you don't go into the phase dry. Also, don't use your second Void Torn here. We need that for the hands. Phase 3 starts up, and you have Rage Bro back on the move. Immediately get some damage in on him, but do not use Plague. Cheat towards the center of the room because a hand is about to spawn. Soon as it does, dot it up with all of your dots, and Void Torrent it down. You want this combo done quickly so we get Void Torrent back for the next hand as well. Now back on Rage Bro. Use Shadow Crashes when available and clip as many of the ads and the bro as you can. This will eventually pay dividends on our Twist of Fate talent. Our goal here is to push Rage Bro after the second hand. If the timing is off or the damage is a little bit low, we need to wait out for the third hand. Having a hand up in the next phase is detrimental to our DPS window. Don't forget we have Psychic Horror if he's gaining ground and we need to deal with a hand immediately. Our main goal here is to burst the hands, but we do have emergency CDs being Silence and Dispersion. But Dispersion is very valuable. Do not use it on a hand unless you absolutely have to. Make sure you're pushing him directly after a hand is dealt with. Phase 4 starts and we'll have a couple of our CDs back, namely Void Eruption, Torrent, and in 20 seconds or so, PI. Depending on if you did a 2-hand push or a 3-hand push for Rage Bro. This is our second window. Don't forget, there will be a soaking circle 20 seconds in. It's easy to forget when you're tunneling damage, but it must be dealt with. After you soak this, you have 10 seconds until Rage Bro wakes up for his final run. When he does, you'll have another hand spawn. This hand should be dotted, but not bursted. You need to put your damage into Mage Bro. Instead, use your Silence so your dots kill the hand, with occasional damage if necessary. You have one soak coming up that shouldn't be tough because Rage Bro is still going to be fairly slow. Now you have one more hand in 10 seconds. This one will be dotted and eventually dispersed to keep damage on Mage Bro. Finally, we have one more circle. This one you may or may not be able to get to, but this is the kill window. If the damage is right, you can get the kill right here. Possibly sooner depending on your ability to keep dots on Mage Bro. Don't forget we'll get PI here again. All Void Torrents should be directed at Mage Bro in this phase. As soon as he's below 35%, you also want to send all Shadow Crashes his way as well. Because the main reason we picked that talent is to maintain uptime on Twist of Fate. My 3-minute trinket came up exactly as I killed the boss, so if I was going to be a bit short, I had the damage burst to race for the kill. The main key with kiting, as you'll see here, is to get them grouped up. As soon as a pack spawns, you want to stand between them and the previous group until they meet up. Then, continue kiting as a singular group. The biggest issue you'll run into is when the mobs are scattered. If you run into a soak that is by the slow bros, you'll need Dispersion to survive. If Rage Bro is near, you'll need Psychic Horror to hold him back. It will take some time, and I won't lie, a little bit of luck, because the locations of the circles can still prove problematic. If the damage is there, and you manage the soaks and the hands, then you have succeeded. You've obtained glory, sweet Mog, and comrade status in my book. Well done, Comrade Priest. Praise the Void! Now that the Void has properly been praised, let's find out how we got there. Let's talk items. Generally, we're shooting for Siege of Orgrimmar gear because of how many sockets and how powerful the enchantments were from that period, except for a few key pieces. The neck, you want to have Pride as. This is the Legion Legendary. I didn't have it, so I had to go with the Heart of Azeroth. Pride as does outperform Heart of Azeroth. It also outperforms the Legion Archaeology neck, which a lot of people are going after, but honestly, it's a very large time waste and a big gold sink if you're not taking the time for it. Even when you're filling all the sockets up, it still falls short, unless you're using a verse build, and we're definitely not doing that. From there, you want to go with the BFA rings. Even though they're green, this is actually the best setup for you, because they're item level 52, which allows you to put both the higher end sockets in them, being the Kraken's Eye and the Leviathan's Eye. Not to mention that the enchantments for BFA were actually stronger than they are currently. Don't leave these behind. They're very easy to get, they're very affordable, and you can get the exact stats that you want. For your cloak, you'd actually want to pick up the legendary cloak from BFA. My priest didn't have it, so I went with benthic pieces, which are a great backup for any slot that you're missing. They have a good chance of rolling additional sockets or tertiary stats, and they're pretty easy to grind. You can buy these for 5 pearls from Nazjatar, and you can just keep buying the same piece if that's all that you need. If you're looking for off stats, speed is the most valuable for us. When you're looking for your weapon and offhand, the most important piece is actually the offhand, which is from SOO. This isn't the only one, and to some degree it doesn't really matter which one you get. You just want one of them because of the strong enchantments you can apply to them, and the socket. I just picked up a green weapon from Shadowlands. I didn't have one with a socket unfortunately, but I grabbed it so I could use Celestial Guidance and the Shadow Core oil. In terms of trinkets, I went with the Inscrutable Quantum Device. This gives a gigantic amount of mastery during our burst window, but it also comes back off CD right in time for the final kill window if we're a little bit slow. The other trinket I had is the Minuscule Malemental, which did alright, but I would recommend instead using the Unblinking Gaze of Seth. This drops from Iskar in HFC. It didn't drop for me when I ran it, but this will allow us to maintain great uptime on Twist of Fate while you're damaging either of the brothers. In general, you want to use an on-use trinket, and typically a rather high CD, because it allows for a better burst potential, and then a passive damage trinket. You want the chest and the wrists from Shadowlands, preferably with sockets. Everything else is either SOO or benthic pieces from Nazjatar. That's for the additional sockets and the tertiary stats, speed being the most valuable. However, make sure you're not picking up Azerite armor, which is the chest, the helm, and the shoulders. You'll walk in there with more intellect, but you'll lose out so many other secondary stats that your damage will actually suffer. I promise you I've tried it, it does not work. And now for gems. You want the regular int gems being the Leviathan's Eye, the Kraken's Eye, the Saber's Eye, and then also the Nightmare tier. From there we're filling the remaining sockets with Masterful Argulite. This is the +7 Mastery gem from Legion. In my testing, it was performing better than any gem unless it was 5 or more intellect. Unfortunately, there isn't a 5 intellect gem, and the only reason that we took the Nightmare tier is because it also gives 4 stamina, which does help some. In fact, I made the biggest jump in damage done during burn phases by swapping out 7 +3 int gems for +7 mastery gems. If I had access to more, I would have swapped out all of my lower int gems. Now we'll talk enchantments. If you're using the Legion neck, then you want the Mark of the Trained Soldier. I didn't have it, I had the Heart of Azeroth, so I could not use it. For your shoulders, you want the Greater Crane inscription. Your cloak is Fortified Speed. Your chest is Eternal Stats. Your wrist is the Shadowlands Intellect enchantment. Weapon, I went with Celestial Guidance. Offhand is +8 Intellect. Gloves is +8 Mastery. Belt, you would do the Living Steel belt buckle here. Pants is the powerful Enchanted Spell Thread. Boots is Pandaren Step. I didn't have it available to me, so I went with Earthen Vitality. And then the rings are the Accord of Mastery. Next is Consumables, and you want the Greater Flask of Endless Fathoms, which vastly outperforms the Shadowlands Flask. Our potion is the Superior Battle Potion of Intellect. Augment Rune is just whichever one you have access to. There's very little difference between all of them. The War Scroll of Intellect gives us a 3% stat bonus. The food we want is Barella's Blood Sausage. It isn't the highest stat food, but it is the most cost effective by a long shot. If you're bored or incredibly wealthy, target the FEAST. And we want the Shadow Core Oil for our weapon. For drums, just make sure it works on characters level 50 and below, and pick up the cheapest one. Let's talk talents. So I started with Fortress of the Mind, because it gives you a little bit more damage, but more importantly, it's the insanity generation that really helps us out here. And then I went with Body and Soul, because it allows us to create space on Rage Bro and kite him effectively. And then I took Twist of Fate. I know Searing Nightmares is tempting because of the AoE damage that it provides, but it doesn't actually answer any of the questions or solves that we need for this challenge. We don't die from not having enough add damage, we die from not having enough bro damage. From there I went with Psychic Horror. I know some people will also use Mind Bomb here, and Mind Bomb is more effective at holding back all of the adds instead of just one add. However, Mind Bomb can be broken with damage. And I found that when I was using Mind Bomb, I would break Rage Bro out early because I already had dots rolling on him, whereas Psychic Horror would actually hold him off for the full turn. Then I went to Shadow Crash. Shadow Crash was most effective at maintaining uptime on Twist of Fate for me. Then I went with Void Torrent because of the way it allows us to deal with the hands. And the hands are one of the big problems that we have throughout this engagement. Last one I picked up was Hungering Void. I know some will prefer Surrender to Madness here, but I didn't find it as effective for this strategy. It doesn't line up as well with our burst windows as Hungering Void does, and it muddies the 30-second window we do have with choosing a target and ensuring that it dies, rather than simply pushing damage into Mage Bro. Now you have all the tools that you need with a currently viable winning strategy. You can do this, comrade. And when you do, return and tell me the tales of your glory. If this video helped you achieve Mog and glory, just leave me a comment. If this video got you killed and you're upset about it, just leave me a comment. If this video had too much banter for your tastes, just leave. No, please, this is only my second video and I could use all the help and advice that you could give me. I'm only here to offer help and smiles. You can find me on Twitter if you wish to do the same. So until we see each other again, take time and take care.